Why are there not more people talking about one of the most significant escalations in the Middle East in recent years? The world's attention has been pulled in so many directions, but the events that unfolded between Iran, the United States, and Israel in June 2025 have the potential to reshape the entire region and possibly the global order. Despite the magnitude of these developments, coverage has been surprisingly muted, with many people unaware of just how close the world came to a much larger conflict. Let's talk about Iran's missile strikes on US bases, an event that, in any other era, would have dominated headlines for weeks. These weren't just symbolic gestures or empty threats. Iran launched a coordinated attack on American military installations, a move that sent shockwaves through diplomatic and military circles worldwide. The main target, US bases in Qatar, a tiny but strategically vital nation on the Arabian Peninsula. Qatar hosts thousands of American troops and serves as a critical hub for US operations in the region. The decision to strike here was not random. It was a calculated message from Tehran, signaling that no American asset in the Middle East is beyond reach. This was a critical moment in the latest conflict, one that could have easily spiraled out of control. The world watched with bated breath as military analysts and diplomats scrambled to assess the fallout. Let's break down exactly what happened, why it matters, and what it could mean for the future. The recent 12-day war in June 2025 didn't erupt out of nowhere. Tensions had been simmering for months, with both sides trading threats and accusations. The spark that ignited the conflict came when the US, under President Trump, made the controversial decision to launch airstrikes against Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a dramatic escalation, intended to cripple Iran's nuclear ambitions and send a clear message of support to Israel, which had been facing its own security threats. President Trump's administration justified the strikes as a necessary step to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Fighter jets roared into the night sky, targeting key sites deep inside Iranian territory. The world braced for Iran's response, knowing that such a bold move would not go unanswered. The US action was widely seen as a show of solidarity with Israel, whose security concerns had reached a boiling point. Israeli officials praised the strikes, while American and Israeli military leaders coordinated closely to prepare for any potential retaliation from Iran. The alliance between the two countries was on full display, but it also made them both targets for Iranian anger. Iran's response was swift and decisive. Within hours, Tehran convened its top military commanders and launched a barrage of ballistic missiles at US bases in the region. This was not just a symbolic act. It was a direct challenge to American military power and a warning to other countries in the region not to get involved. On June 23rd, the world woke up to news of explosions near US military installations in both Qatar and Iraq. The attacks were carefully timed and executed, targeting key infrastructure and personnel. The message was clear. Iran was willing to escalate, and it had the capability to strike American forces wherever they were stationed. The main focus of the Iranian assault was Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest US outpost in the Middle East and a linchpin of American military strategy. Al Udeid is home to thousands of personnel, advanced aircraft, and critical command centers. An attack here was a bold gamble, risking a massive escalation, but also demonstrating Iran's reach and resolve. Iran fired over a dozen ballistic missiles in a matter of minutes, lighting up the night sky and triggering air raid sirens across the base. The world watched live as missile defense systems sprang into action, intercepting most of the incoming threats. The speed and coordination of the response were a testament to years of preparation and investment in advanced technology. Thanks to advanced warning systems, real-time intelligence sharing, and robust air defenses, almost all of the missiles were intercepted before they could reach their targets. Soldiers and airmen worked around the clock, monitoring radar screens and coordinating with allies to ensure the safety of everyone on the base. In the end, only one missile remnant managed to hit a building near the base. Emergency services responded immediately, assessing the damage and securing the area. Miraculously, there were no casualties, and the military infrastructure remained intact. The incident could have been far worse, but the effectiveness of the defense systems prevented a potential disaster. The building that was struck suffered only minor damage, and security personnel quickly cordoned off the site to prevent any further risk. The fact that no military assets were destroyed was a huge relief, but the psychological impact of the attack was significant. For many, it was a stark reminder of how quickly the situation could deteriorate. But Iran's retaliation didn't stop with US bases. In a move that shocked the world, Iranian missiles also targeted Israel. One missile struck a residential building in the city of Beersheba, causing devastation and heartbreak for the families caught in the crossfire. The attack on Beersheba was deadly. 3 civilians lost their lives, and 6 more were injured, some critically. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, pulling survivors from the rubble and providing urgent medical care. The images of mourning families and destroyed homes quickly spread across social media, fueling outrage and calls for justice. Israel wasted no time in responding. Within hours, Israeli fighter jets launched a series of airstrikes on targets in Tehran, sending a clear message that attacks on Israeli civilians would not go unanswered. The cycle of retaliation threatened to spiral into a much larger war, with both sides bracing for further escalation. As the world held its breath, diplomatic efforts kicked into high gear. Qatar, leveraging its unique position as a mediator in the region, worked tirelessly alongside the United States to broker a ceasefire. Behind closed doors, negotiators raced against the clock to prevent a full-scale war. Within hours, a fragile ceasefire was announced. The deal was hailed as a diplomatic breakthrough, but it was clear that the underlying tensions had not been resolved. Conflicting statements from Iranian and Israeli officials about the terms of the agreement only added to the uncertainty. Both Iran and Israel claimed victory, each presenting their own version of events to the world. The atmosphere remained tense, with many analysts warning that the ceasefire could collapse at any moment. The risk of renewed violence hung over the region like a dark cloud. The conflict sent shockwaves through global markets. Oil prices spiked overnight as traders feared a prolonged war could disrupt supplies from the Middle East. But as news of the ceasefire spread, prices dropped sharply, reflecting the market's relief, but also its underlying anxiety about future instability. The financial world reacted with a mix of relief and caution. Investors scrambled to assess the long-term impact of the conflict, knowing that the situation could change at any moment. The events of the 12-day war served as a stark reminder of how interconnected the world has become and how quickly a regional crisis can have global consequences. In the end, the 12-day war left the Middle East more tense and uncertain than ever. While open conflict was averted, the underlying issues remain unresolved. Diplomacy is now in the spotlight, but the world will be watching closely to see whether peace can truly hold, or if this was just a temporary pause in a much larger struggle for power and influence in the region.